pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors special meeting on May the 12th, 2022.
Yes.
Said May this time, didn't I?
Yes.
I've been saying March all.
So, Kim,
Is there any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
I have none. Discussion and vote. We have a permit for the fireworks for 34 raceways. And the date on this is
this Saturday.
May the 14th, Saturday of 2022. Everything is signed here by the fire department and everything, so what's your wishes?
Let's give them fireworks, man. Let's do it. I move to approve.
Second.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes, please.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
They will greatly appreciate this since it
Yes.
kind of got in at the last minute.
I told them the only way I'd vote yes for this is if I can get in free and watch the fireworks. Yes, this thing being televised.
Okay, we have a public input. We'll give you 2 minutes for the public to call 319-753-8203 extension 4. That's 319-753-8203 extension 4. Or email board@dmcounty.com. That's board@dmcounty.com. We'll give you 2 minutes.
We got the 2 minutes. I better make a correction. Leia's watching. Just joking. I'm even going to the 34 raceways. I got plans this weekend.
Put that in the paper, put it
She's
in the
watching.
paper.
Yeah, she's watching.
I can't think of anything else that we need to address either, so.
The news has been picking up and putting on the radio about your early voting, so
Okay.
I'm glad to hear that. People should, if they listen to the radio, they'll know this.
Yeah, and I'm getting ready to, I know I send the legal notice to all the newspapers, but I'm getting ready to put it on our website too. The first day that we can officially notify the public is
The 18th?
the 18th, same day that we have absentee voting. That's our legal notice. And the legal notice will have all of the candidates and all the precincts and all that stuff listed in it, so.
What was that last day of absentee again? What was that?
The last day that you can vote in person is the day before the election, which is June the 6th. You have up till 5 p.m. But if you want a ballot mailed to you, they really cut down the dates on that. The first day that we can mail them, you can request them up to 70 days before the election. But the first day that we can actually mail out those ballots is the same day that people can come in and start in-person voting. So that's May the 18th, but the last day you'd request a ballot to be mailed to you is May the 23rd, Monday, May the 23rd at 5 p.m. If you don't get your request form to us by 5 p.m. on May the 23rd, we won't be able to honor that, we won't be able to send one to you. Then you'll have to definitely come to the courthouse or go to the poll.
Right on. Some people just like to come down so they can see the people, say
Oh,
hello.
okay, okay.
2 minutes are up. With an eye, we're out of here.
Aye.
Aye. Hi, Tom.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we went ahead and had our big meeting first, Tom.
That's fine, I apologize, I don't know what's going on anyway, I've had IT troubles, but better late than never, I suppose.
Well, what we're gonna do, the next time you go on vacation, you're gonna have to take Colin with you.
That's true. Get him a direct click, anyway, we appear to be underway now, so, you've got the fireworks permit taken care of?
Yeah, it's all taken care of and,
Perfect.
yeah. So, I guess are we ready for the work session? Okay, we're here for a work session with the Worth Agency on some insurance. And Tom, do you want to lead into this? You're the one to talk to.
Yeah, and I can't, see, I assume that's Karen and Joe back there.
That's correct, yes.
They're
You want
shaking
us-
their heads.
You want us up here?
I got a
You guys wanna
call.
move over here? Maybe?
Yeah.
Can you see from that?
There.
We're gonna move them.
I got a call from the work agency, which, let's say a month ago. But anyway, so they, I believe it was Joe, but it could have been Mark, that they happened to notice they were, that at a meeting, I said I was going to research our loss records for the last 10 years to figure out whether, because we had an option, whether to go with a $5,000 or $1,000 deductible. So, and I did that, and it took me some time, and I wasn't really confident in the way it turned out. But anyway, they thought, why is a supervisor, why is anybody doing that? And why is the insurance agency doing that? They said, we do that. They said there's different deductibles for ICAP, and they could run the loss records and just, figure out that there's a better percentage outcome by going with a 5,000 or 1,000 or whatever it might be. And I was unaware they had different deductibles. And anyway, long story short, I talked to them a little bit. And they said, your insurance company isn't doing that, you're an agency. And I said, no. So I didn't even know that they did that. So I do know that ICAP, everybody Joe, am I correct in saying ICAP is gonna price everybody the same that's gonna insure Des Moines County, right? Or
That-
probably go to Des Moines County?
That is correct.
That is correct. Well, what we are not getting, and I thought it was interesting, you guys can look at it, is we really aren't getting any service beyond getting somebody sending us a bill. I've asked a couple, 3 times over the past about an idea what the increase was going to be, or if there's going to be an increase, or most of the information I get is you give me a number, I call ICAP. I mentioned it to Terry once, and I believe, Terry, didn't you mention you'd had some problems with insurance certificates or something like that?
Yeah, sometimes we have to, requesting them and getting some of those certificates, yeah.
Anyway, so the price for an ICAP policy would be the same, except the insurance company would go over and said, you guys, it would be better if you had a $1,000 deductible or a $5,000 or whatever the whatever that deductible might be. And I thought a little extra service might save us a little money, and it'd certainly save us some pain. So I asked them if they would like to make a presentation to the board, and so they're here.
All right.
Joe, anything I misrepresented, you feel free to jump in.
No, that was great. I feel like you essentially did our job for us with the intro, so I appreciate that.
Get this guy on payroll.
Yeah, exactly, no doubt. You have 2 packets of information, or 2 pieces, and Tom, I apologize that we didn't send one electronically to you. I wasn't aware that you wouldn't be here today, so we'll provide the information electronically. But what both these documents lay out, the binded packet is essentially an intro to our team, how we operate as Worth Agency and First Main Street Insurance. The first 5 pages are just general information. Beyond that is an actual plan for Des Moines County that outlines both our scope of work that we would provide as the agent, as well as the research that we've done to this point to realize where the county is with ICAP and some of the recommendations that we've been looking at. So just a very brief synopsis of those first 5 pages. Historically, counties throughout the state of Iowa have really made one of 2 choices when it comes to selecting their insurance agent or provider. They've either chosen to work with a local agency that was in the county. They felt good about the fact that the revenue generated on the account would stay local. That is what most counties in the state of Iowa do. The other option, if they felt like they were growing in complexity and structure and they needed more expertise or guidance, they might have chosen to work with a larger municipality agency, one that's out of Des Moines or Chicago or Minneapolis. What our firm essentially allows counties to do is get the best of both worlds concept in that. So Worth Agency is a local agency here in Burlington, and Karen can speak best to the history of the agency and who is employed here locally, property taxes generated by their various business ventures to the county. But you get the concept of a local agency while having our public entity specialty team that's supported by First Main Street Insurance, which is a partner of the Worth Agency. So my role is lead advisor within that program, which means I spend a majority of my time working with cities, counties, and school districts across the state of Iowa in the programs specific to county insurance, for example, with the ICAP program. So that's what the first 5 pages highlight generally. Beyond that goes into kind of the breakdown of research that we have done, specifically on the account based on discussions with Tom and our own outside research as far as some of the established goals that we would recommend for the county, and some of the things that we're noting both with the work comp, which is a different carrier, but something that we could get into more if we were having intentional discussions with the county about being a holistic agent. But if we're just specifically focusing on ICAP, there's a number of things to discuss on the upcoming renewal. One is the rate increase that the county will be seeing, as well as some various retention or deductible strategies that you could be looking at to help offset some of the costs related to that. So I don't know how much you want to get into this specific packet, but as you go through, you're just going to see discussions with Tom, our outside research, some of the high impact issues that we've recognized from an insurance purchasing standpoint, where we feel like our team can better support Des Moines County in being strategic with how they're transferring risk to the insurance market.
If I could jump in here just a second, Joe.
Yep.
And I'm familiar with insurance. I had a steel erection company for some time. But just so that you guys know it, in the last few years, ICAP has gone from about a $250,000 a year in expense to this year it'll be about a $350,000 a year in expense. Last year and this year, ICAP's not going to have dividends. You used to get a dividend, I believe, based on your longevity with the company, and that might have been $30,000 or $35,000 off the top of my head. They quit giving that. I think ICAP is not, as you've heard me say, an insurance company. It's a risk pool.
That's correct.
So it's different, and it's pretty hard to change from a risk pool to an insurance company, because if you have an insurance company, if your period, your coverage period runs from July 1st to June 30th, and you have an accident on June 30th, your insurance company that covers that period is going to take care of that claim all the way till it's finished. The risk pool doesn't work that way. If you have something on the 30th and you've got somebody else that's going to take over your insurance the next day, they don't touch it. If you've already got a claim in progress, at the end of their term, they're done with it. So if you try to change to an insurance company, you would have to get some sort of coverage that would go back so far to cover those claims. So right now, we're pretty much stuck with the risk group.
That's correct.
Go ahead, Phil.
The one thing that I would share, though, to make Des Moines County feel really good about where they are transferring risk away from the county is ICAP is the dominant player in the county space. I believe at this point they are the insurer, however you utilize that terminology. They transfer risk away from 85 of the 99 counties at this point, with several of those other counties being self-insured. So they are the dominant player in this space. Part of the reason for that is it's very hard for a insurance company, a standard insurance company, to wrap their head around all the various operations that a county takes on. If you compare that to, traditional private company, they have a specific space or two that they focus on. Well, county operations are vast. You're at one point insuring public officials and the work that they do, and then 5 minutes later, you're looking at the operations of secondary roads. There's just so many different aspects that ICAP has a very good handle on what that looks like, where it's harder for a traditional insurance company. There's really one that competes with ICAP, which is EMC Insurance, who we also represent. I had a conversation with their team, and they really like to see counties that are under a specific population that Des Moines County exceeds. So all of Tom's comments are correct about the fact that it's very hard to leave ICAP, but at the same time, the county should feel good about the fact that that's who they're utilizing at this point, because they're really the primary option for you to consider. Does that make sense? Tom, I don't want to step on those, but.
No, it does, and I agree with you, and the only point I was making is there's not a lot of choice between insurance companies.
Correct.
That we can go to different insurance companies, so you're gonna pay ICAP's rates. And I think we should get a little more service if we're paying that much money. Somebody should be going through those loss records and say, looking at your loss records for the last 5 years or something like that, you should have a different deductible, or you should change this coverage or that coverage.
Yep.
And you're not getting that.
So the packet that we provide here, there's really two pieces, and I apologize that this is the biggest paper you've probably seen in your life, but just to make sure that the content was visible, we printed it on.
Somebody told you I couldn't see.
I'm
Appreciate
telling you,
it.
you put it on this size, it's not very legible, so. There's two pieces to this. The first is what we project the county is going to see at the 7/1 anniversary if you make no changes compared to what you renewed at last year. So last year, your anniversary invoice packet was $305,473. That was your contribution to ICAP. Based on the other counties that we work with and our projections, we're projecting that your contribution this year is going to increase to $357,204.
50 grand.
Very significant increase, a 16.93% increase is our projection of that. So what we want to help a Des Moines County with is just being strategic on, as we're working with the underwriter, and we know that a rate increase is coming. And the reason for that is, without getting into a 10-minute dialogue on it, it's essentially, we're in a hard insurance market, which means that rates are increasing on a number of lines based on frequency and severity increases that the insurance market is seeing. While ICAP is a risk-sharing pool, they have reinsurers that they have to contract with to make sure if a county has a catastrophic incident, ICAP is going to limit what they pay out before reinsurance kicks in. So a big driver of why they are increasing their rates to individual members is based on the reinsurance market. So what we want to essentially do is take a look and negotiate with the underwriter to say, can you show the county options for increasing deductibles and retentions, and giving you kind of a strategy to say, how should we be renewing at July 1 that best makes sense for the county's risk transfer. So the remainder of this document is just kind of a high-level overview of how we evaluate the total cost of risk. Insurance premiums or ICAP contributions are certainly a piece to that, but there's other expenses that come with total cost of risk. Things like out-of-pocket expense to pay deductibles, the cost of having uninsured or underinsured events that take place, compliance fines. There's a number of line items that you'll see here. And then what we did is we essentially went back and said, based on your historic revenues and what you've paid for contributions, the current setup has you with $5,000 casualty deductibles on all lines. And Tom actually made that recommendation last year. Based on us looking back at the data, we would support that increase at the time based on how the county has performed historically. What we want to do is continue to evaluate that to see, hey, should we be looking at either further deductible increases or lines that there's more activity for the county? Should we be reducing those and seeing what the contribution cost would be? We just feel like the county deserves a high level of service and strategic direction
I
based
agree
on.
with the beer, my friend.
You're talking my lingo.
And it's based on the fact that, just in full transparency, the agent that you select for your ICAP program makes a lot of money to be the agent. It's a significant revenue, so we feel like that should be, earned, and our scope of work that's laid out in this packet would kind of help the county understand what we are proposing.
What you brought in there, Rod, what you presented there, is that in the form of a proposal, that's the services you would be furnishing?
That's correct. So what the packet essentially does is, on the front end, Tom, it lays out what we have identified for discovery to this point. We would like to further work with the county. If you were to appoint us as the agent, we would like to do a deeper dive with some of the members that we would consider kind of key or importance to the risk management of Des Moines County. We'd like direction from the supervisors and the team that's here today, but what we generally see, we have listed for individuals that are here with Des Moines County. So Terry Johnson, right, as county auditor, Lisa Schaefer as county attorney, Chris Lee, conservation director, Colin, Brian Carter, Kevin Glending, Tom, Jim, and Shane. Just having maybe a meeting, an hour meeting, to say, you know, this is what we're typically seeing with counties, this is how we help them transfer risk beyond just insurance placement, and gathering a little bit more information, so our insurance setup matches what the county wants to see, is kind of our setup, or how we do business.
One more piece of history. You guys, and you remember last June, I know Terry does, because they sent, ICAP sent when they, typically we don't know exactly what the bill's gonna be until we get it. They don't quote something like an insurance company does, and it's gonna be so much per dollar receipts, or this or that. But the reason we got a $5,000 deductible is on ICAP's bill, it says for a $5,000 deductible, you could cut, I believe it was $12,000, I believe it was $317,000 and $305,000. So I went through all the loss records to try to figure out if that was worth $12,000 or not. And it looked to me like most of the time it was. So, and I'm certainly not an expert looking at that, but our insurance agent never mentioned that to us, that they had that. And I believe I reached out to them, and they said, it's whatever you want. You know, they said, whatever you think's a better deal. And that's fine. But it would be nice if somebody that knew what they were looking at was looking at that. You know, this looks like a good deal on paper, but it'll cost you more money in the long run. Or it's a great deal. I just, I was in business long enough and dealt with the insurance companies and agents. I had insurance costs similar to the counties, and I get pretty good service. They'd come down, they'd explain this or that to me, and they were always available by phone to answer any questions. And they'd tell me, you know, if you do this or if you do that. And I think the county should be getting that level of service.
I agree totally, especially with insurance as volatile as it's getting. No, we need somebody that's, you know, that's looking for things that we're not, because obviously I don't know what the heck about insurance. I don't have time to, you know, to comb through that stuff, as Tom does. Bless his heart. But seriously though, no, I think that's, I think we've been probably not getting the service that we've deserved over the years, probably.
On this excess liability, where we got $8 million excess liability, that covers anything that come under general or the law enforcement liability. If they exceeded their $2 million there, then this $8 million kick in.
Correct, so it's general liability, auto liability, law enforcement liability, public officials liability.
So, per se then, on each one of them, if that excess had to kick in, we'd really have $10 million.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is that 8 million, is that an umbrella?
Essentially the same thing, yes. There are there's technical differences when it comes to how forms read on umbrella policies versus excess liability, but it's essentially the same thing. Once your underlying limit is exhausted for any one occurrence, your excess liability would then kick in over those underlying lines. The really nice thing about ICAP's form is it's what's called non-aggregate. So Tom, when you had your business, most insurance policies they'll give you a per occurrence limit and a per aggregate limit. So let's say in a hypothetical world, you have $1 million of general liability coverage per occurrence, and you have $2 million of general aggregate coverage. If you exceed your aggregate with multiple claims, the insurance company is going to stop paying out in that instance. With ICAP, what they say is we are a non-aggregate form. So technically, Des Moines County could have an $8 million, let's say $2 million of general liability is exhausted, and you have an additional $4 million that kicks in on your excess, and then 2 months later, you have another event in which multiple lines need to be tapped. There's no aggregate form, meaning you don't have a capacity for multiple claims throughout the year. And that's very unique to ICAP's program.
Anyway, just to jump in again, obviously it's a work session, we aren't gonna make any decisions, but I'd ask them, if they could come and they could explain it better than I could, and they've done that. So you guys asked me any questions, but I thought that way you've got something to look at, think about, and we can address it in the future. Is Mark,
If we change over that be effective
July 1st.
7/1, yeah.
So how difficult would that be?
What you would essentially do is you would vote on it. If approved, we would get a signature from one of the supervisors, and Terry, I believe you're the other listed on the ICAP documents annually. So we would get a form that appoints us as agent of record. We would submit that to ICAP. They have a 10-day rescind period, which means it's 10 days. If you change your mind, you would sign a rescind form. Once that 10 days is up, we are then the agent on the policy, and we would begin the negotiation for the July 1 renewal. So the short answer is it's very, very easy to do. It's essentially a form that's signed, submitted, we wait 10 days, then we get to work for the county.
Joe, would that need to be done before, would we just say effective 7/1, but you would need to do that 10 days, or at least 10 days before July 1st, or how's that work?
That's correct, at least 10 days before July 1st, and what we would recommend is sooner than that, just so we actually have time to work with. I believe Tim Butler is the ICAP underwriter on this. We work with Tim on other accounts, so once we have access, what we would do is request that the invoice be sent for the way that the policy is currently structured, and then based on our analysis, ask him for just some alternative options based on deductible changes, and that way we could come back and present to the county once more before the renewal to say, here are your options for how you can structure your policy for this next term.
Here's what I'd like to do. Now, I might be totally wrong. This is a work session. I'm in total agreement with everything you've told me. If you don't take care of your clients, which we don't feel like we've been taken care of, then it's time to do something else. I would like to put this on the agenda Tuesday to vote on.
Is that gonna give you enough time, Tom, if they send you electronic information today?
To be real honest with you, I'm not gonna have a bunch of time. I'm still in Florida being a grandpa. So,
How many diapers have you changed today, Tom?
I'll tell you what, the little boy outgrew diapers about a month before I got down here, so that's a
That's a plus.
That's a plus. I have not had to deal with that. I have had to deal with an unhappy grandchild and an unhappy little boy when I tell him to do something he doesn't want to do, and we've got a battle of wills,
Yeah.
and I'm coming out on the short side generally.
Yes. I mean, no, sorry to hear that, Tom.
Well, what if we get it on like maybe the last Tuesday in May or the first Tuesday in June? I mean, cause that would still give us plenty of time.
What's the last Tuesday?
I would be more comfortable if it was like the last in May or something like that, to give me, just because I'm not gonna have time to look at it down here.
Okay, so I think
Like
May
the
the 31st is the last Tuesday.
Let's do that.
All right, we'll
So
put
we
it
wanna
on.
get it
That
on the
work for you,
agenda.
Jim?
What's that?
Does that work for you?
That'll work for me. Like Joe said, you know, the sooner the better, and I just want to give them plenty of time to get their stuff done too, so we can get all this taken care of.
Cause I think it's
Appreciate that.
usually in early June is when they send us the statement of what we owe, so.
Yep, that's correct. So I believe last year you received that on June 4th, my recollection from looking through documents, June 4th or
Probably.
June 7th, so.
Probably, cause it was earlier this year when I get the whole listing of everything that I have to go through all of the assets to make sure what's been removed and what, make sure everything is,
Yep,
or at least removed, because it's usually secondary roads and conservation and all them that contact the insurance agent to say that, add this vehicle and remove that one.
yep.
And then I go back and when we get the official many, many pages,
Mhm.
and I start going through all of our assets to make sure that everything that we currently have is on there,
Yep.
so.
And that's part of the scope of our work with our team, would be our team doing that in conjunction with you, just to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what buildings, what locations, what vehicles are listed, what departments those are assigned to. And then if you would like, we can even budget out, so you can allocate to specific departments what portion of their contribution expense is tied to secondary roads, is tied to conservation. Their specific vehicles and what contributions pay. We can't do that if that's something that would be
And
beneficial.
ours just non-departmental pays for all of ICAP. We don't split it out into the different departments.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we just have non-departmental pay for all of
Sure,
that. Yeah.
sure.
I know there are some counties that split it out amongst the entities or the different departments, but non-departmental, we just do it in one big lump sum.
Sure.
Makes it a lot easier on.
That's certainly more simple, there's no doubt, yeah.
The 31st worked fine for me
We have to
then.
go through the loss records.
What's that? Sorry.
I said it took a supervisor a weekend to go through the loss records.
So we did watch the YouTube video from last year and did note your work. I think you said 17 years of loss runs. That's, even for me, that's boring, and I'm in insurance, so I can imagine that was a fun weekend for you.
Tom likes his numbers.
He's a special guy. He's a special
Fair
guy.
enough.
Necessary.
The 31st worked fine then for me, Tom, so you wanna put that on the agenda to vote for it, I'll vote on it on the 31st.
Okay,
Is there anything else that you got any more questions, Tom, or anything?
I don't, I appreciate you guys coming.
No doubt.
Karen, have you got Mark in the field?
Yep, he is working away. He's getting a
That's
little
good.
stressed out there for a while.
Keep him straight and working.
He was pretty cranky at home until he got in the fields, let me tell ya.
I was upset with Mark for saying that he wasn't gonna come today because he was too busy in the fields until he said, well, I can have Karen come in my place. I said, you know what, that's perfect.
Get home. Get lost, man.
Tell Mark we'd rather see Karen anyway.
Yep, no doubt about it. No doubt.
It's a secret weapon, send me eye candy,
Yeah.
whatever it
Okay, well,
takes.
if anybody hasn't got anything else, well then we'll conclude this work session. And Tom, you have fun with them grandkids.
No doubt.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
And thank you for the opportunity to
Thanks for
present
coming.
today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Yeah.
You
As
too.
well.
Yeah.
We have
Sorry
someone in our
sorry if I
office
was
who's
late.
very highly.
No, not a problem.
What's that?
We have someone in our office who spoke very highly of you. and
Well,
I
they're a
said,
cotton picking liar. Who is it?
I was gonna say, do they
Relying on
really
me.
know who they're talking about?
Linda Cuomo.
Sure, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
But she works at our office now.
And I
When did
could
she
probably
start
put a
working there?
better
Well,
yes,
Just recently?
you know,